Hello everyone, and welcome back to Turkish Spotlight Secrets. If you're new here, this channel tells the stories everyone is whispering about, but we do it with context, care, and a steady voice you can trust for text-to-speech. Today's deep dive follows a thread that began on a set and, if the evening we're about to recount is any indication, now belongs to real life, the private, meticulously planned night when Barış Baktaş decided to ask Yağmur Yüksel a question that can change everything. Before we get into the moment itself, let's rewind to where this all truly started, long hours on the Kentsesakları set. Crew members noticed early on that Yağmur and Barış shared a professional rhythm that made difficult scenes look easy. Table reads ran cleaner when they sat side by side. Emotional beats landed sooner when they trusted each other's timing. When schedules were brutal, you could find them with pencils and sticky notes, trimming dialogue to protect a scene's quiet center. None of this proves romance, it proves alignment. And alignment, kept carefully over months, sometimes becomes tenderness without either person having to announce it. According to people who saw small pieces of the planning, the idea of proposing wasn't impulsive. It incubated slowly, the way the best decisions do. Barış carried it through a stretch of shooting when the script asked both leads to hold complicated emotions at once. He began paying attention to details that most of us rush past, the color of the evening light that makes Yağmur's face relax, the kind of music she lets play when she thinks no one is listening, the way she picks at her dessert when she's processing something big. He asked one trusted friend to scout restaurants that could be made private without feeling staged. He asked another to find a florist with a quiet touch, greens and breath, not spectacle. And he made a point of keeping the circle small. If this night was to mean anything, it had to be theirs before it became anybody else's. The ring wasn't an afterthought. He didn't reach for size or status. He reached for story. He met a jeweler after a late call and asked for something that would feel like a keepsake even on the days when the world is loud. The result was a delicate setting with a central stone that held light rather than throwing it, an heirloom shape with a modern line, more whispered promise than declaration. Inside the band, he had a phrase engraved that only the two of them would understand, a line from an early Kentsesakları script revision that had belonged to a scene they built together. It was the simplest way to say, this began as work and became a life. The choice of venue mattered. A restaurant overlooking the water was too obvious. A hidden garden felt right, walled with ivy, floor lit by candles low enough not to glare, a small sound system tuned to a playlist that could drift without announcing itself. Guests? None. Witnesses? Only the staff who had been briefed on boundaries. The table was set with linen that invited touch and plates sized for sharing. If the night went exactly as planned, the surroundings would not be the headline, they would be the soft frame that made the moment itself unmistakable. How do you begin a question that large? You don't begin with speeches. You begin with ordinary kindness. When Yağmur arrived, on time, in a dress that moved like breath, Barış didn't launch into a script. He asked about her day. He told a clumsy story about a set light that refused to cooperate. He let the room find its pace. Starters arrived. Laughter arrived. The distance between them shortened not with drama, but with ease. Every great proposal understands that the yes is decided in the small minutes before anyone reaches for a box. At some point between the second course and dessert, the music shifted almost imperceptibly to a theme she loved and he rarely admitted he knew by heart. Staff were already in motion, one quietly closing the outer gate, another pouring tea as if this were any other evening. Barış's hand found the edge of his jacket, and then a small velvet case was on the table, unopened. He didn't kneel. He didn't need to. His voice carried the gravity. He spoke about work, how trust on set had taught him more about love than any book. He spoke about the discipline it takes to choose gentleness when a day is long. He said he had learned that home isn't an address, sometimes it's the sound a room makes when the right person enters. Then he reached for the box. There are two kinds of silence, the kind that fills a room with pressure, and the kind that lifts the roof. This was the second kind. The lid opened. The ring did what it was built to do, hold light, not throw it. According to the person closest to the doorway, Yağmur covered her mouth with one hand, not to stage a reaction, but to manage one. She didn't answer quickly. She looked down at the engraving and let it register. She looked back up and, before any syllable, pulled him closer. Yes often begins as an embrace. Words followed, quiet enough to belong to them. Something about time not feeling like an enemy anymore. Something about the future feeling less like a cliff and more like a path they'd already been walking without allowing themselves to name it. And then the sentence that matters, she said yes. What happens after yes is the true measure of a night like this. They didn't invite a photographer into the garden. They didn't march into the street for a staged candidate's walk. They asked the staff for 10 minutes. Staff gave them 15. They breathed. They returned to the table and let the tea go cold. They laughed at how seriously they had tried to be unserious all evening. Then they did the most grown-up thing you can do after you decide to change your life. They made a small plan. First calls tomorrow to the people who need to hear this directly. No posts tonight. No hints. No coy captions. Just a series of private conversations that would turn a moment into a promise shared with the circles that keep them anchored. By morning, the quiet widened. Family first. A handful of close friends next. A couple of colleagues who had earned the right to know why the next day on set might feel a little different. Reactions varied the way families do. Some cried immediately. Some flooded the line with practical questions, ring size, city hall or ceremony, dates that will not work because someone has already booked a vacation. A relative or two fell into an old reflex about timing. The pair handled it with patience and humor. They were not asking permission, they were sharing joy, and people can be taught how to receive joy if you give them a chance. Outside the circle, the world kept doing what it does. Fan pages rotated favorite scenes with captions like "From Fiction to Forever." Edits appeared almost instantly, pairing the softest moments from Conseclery with whatever music the editor loved most that week. A few reckless accounts posted bait about a public engagement party that does not exist. Those posts will always exist, the fix is not rage, it's refusal. When the principals remain calm, rumor runs out of oxygen. Back on set, work did not collapse beneath the weight of happiness. It got cleaner. The first scene after the proposal was a complicated dialogue about choosing courage over pride. There is no evidence that personal events should make professional work better, but anyone who has spent time on a stage will tell you that a rested heart steadies the hands. They hit marks, they respected the clock, they protected the crew from overtime. A good life is not the enemy of good television. Often, it is the quiet reason good television can keep being made. What about the public announcement? That is not our call to preview. The most likely path is the most respectful one, a short statement when logistics line up, a photo that looks like them rather than like an ad, and boundaries stated clearly enough to be honored. That approach has the added benefit of setting the tone for everything that comes next. Will there be a ceremony? Perhaps, lavish or minimal, public or private, documented or deliberately unphotographed. Will there be a long engagement? Possibly, sets, seasons, and families have calendars, too. The older you get, the more you understand that when can be as loving a question as will. If you're a fan who wants to celebrate without adding pressure, there are 3 simple ways to be part of this in a way that truly helps. First, keep the focus on their work. Ratings and streams are the currency that protects private time. Second, if you post, keep captions generous and grounded. Congratulations travel further when they aren't wrapped in demands for dates. Third, resist hunting for out-of-context images. An engagement is not a scavenger hunt. Let the people in the center set the pace, it will make the moment better for them and, by extension, better for everyone who cares. We'll close the way we began, by remembering why this story resonates. It did not need fireworks. It didn't lean on spectacle. It honored the craft that brought 2 people into a room and trusted that craft to carry them into the next room with the same steadiness. A garden, a ring with a secret line inside, a question asked at the right speed, and a yes that sounded like relief. If that's not a recipe for a life, it is at least a promise to try. Thank you for watching Turkish Spotlight Secrets. If this kind of careful storytelling gives you a little breathing room in a loud feed, please like the video, subscribe, and consider joining as a member so we can keep investing in the stories that deserve time. In the comments, tell us your favorite detail from proposals you've witnessed or experienced. What made the moment feel true? As always, keep it kind. There are real hearts at the center of these headlines, and they've just made a decision that deserves the space to bloom.